And it wasn't about stopping any services. What it was about how much those things were costing. We didn't have that information. Well, as you can see in this budget, we do have that information.
So here's the kicker. The truth finally leaks, and when you know it, the money was sitting there the whole time. Tiffany steps back, and suddenly it's, oh wow, look what we just found. Please, that cash didn't just appear out of thin air. Napoleon padded his paycheck, rubber-stamped budgets, shuffled numbers like he was running a carnival scam, doing the exact things Tiffany was getting dragged for. And the crazy part? Maybe she wasn't even stealing. Maybe she just wasn't ready to flip all her cards on the table. Now Napoleon's sitting there like, wait, so she might not have done anything? Welcome to transparency, my guy. Napoleon, let's be real. If you want to shine as transparent, start with honesty. Don't roll up acting like the poster child.
Supervisor, Chair recognizes Trustee Gonzalez. I don't have any questions, but I do want to say a few things. You see increases in areas of the budget, but this is as we make our transition with this new board, because with these budgets, the focus is on you, the focus is on services. I'll just go ahead and say it. In the past, that wasn't the case. The focus, unfortunately, was on person. We're focusing on you, the residents now, and that's how we are going forward. So yes, some things have increased. A couple examples, special services. It was touched on already, but I want to bring it up again. That's kind of one of the things that are near and dear to my heart. That helps disabled citizens, our disabled residents with various things, whether it be recreational or things in the home. Those were things that just unfortunately fell on the wayside in the, just the past, what we've been through. So once again, the focus is off of promotion and more on services. Seniors, another part of the township that's near and dear to my heart. Once again, it's bringing more services to direct to our seniors. I was an employee here many, many years ago, and those were the areas mainly that I worked in. At that time, it was combined called Senior and Special Services.
Of integrity when all you're doing is flipping the same script with cleaner punctuation. Talking about being translucent doesn't mean a thing if you're still moving shady behind the curtain. The only thing translucent right now is your ego. You're not changing the game. You're remixing the same scam. Stop pretending you're writing a new chapter when you're clearly copying straight out of Tiffany's playbook.io. Before we keep pushing, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Now, about that Thornton Township meeting.
Going forward, I can clearly see with this budget that that's not the case anymore. Once again, the focus is on service. I'm glad a gentleman brought up ice cream, and something, I'll just use that as an example. Once again, it wasn't about ice cream. It wasn't about stopping any services. What it was about how much those things were costing. We didn't have that information.
Folks said the board sounded defensive, but honestly, that's just standard programming. That crew always dodges questions like it's recess dodgeball. What really stood out wasn't them, it was the residents. People got up there and dropped lines that had me cracking up, raising eyebrows, and questioning everything. Just another wild night in Thornton. But then one speaker stepped up and grabbed my attention, Mr. Christopher Gonzalez. And let me tell you, something about that man's delivery has always rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe it's just me, but I've been side-eyeing him for years. Especially since he's the one who randomly slid Tiffany's name into the mix back in the day and cleared her path to become supervisor. That move alone had red flags flying in 4K. And now he's back at the mic? It's giving Snake energy. Full stop. He opens his mouth, starts talking, and then he drops a line that had me slamming paws like, hold up, did he really just say that? Nah, that's not sliding by. We're gonna dissect this piece by piece. Break it down play by play. Because whatever slick move he thought he was pulling with that statement, it needs to be unpacked, examined, and shoved right under the brightest spotlight possible. You already know I'm about to go in deep. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Roll the clip. Let's get this straight. Tiffany hated questions. Ask her something simple, and she'd glare like you just insulted her whole bloodline. Her go-to response? Why don't you just trust me? As if asking for details was an act of war. And her favorite hiring policy? Filling the office with folks who had records. She called it second chances. But let's be real, when your entire staff is ex-cons, that's not grace. That's strategy. Build an echo chamber full of people too scared to push back, and suddenly you're untouchable. Then came the budgets, or what she called budgets. In reality, black holes. Tiffany wanted us to rubber stamp papers we never even saw. For all we knew, she was just writing Tiffany checks to Tiffany. No answers. No transparency. Nothing. The narrative now is simple. The chaos was born out of her secrecy. Nobody knew numbers. Nobody knew spending. But the second she's gone, boom, Napoleon's getting raises. Numbers are suddenly crystal clear. So tell me, what's the story here? Are y'all saying Tiffany wasn't stealing? Maybe she wasn't corrupt, just paranoid and controlling. Because if the money was always there, sitting untouched, then maybe this wasn't theft, it was pride. I remember Tiffany swearing, we have money, but when pressed for proof, she'd snap, I don't like your tone. That's not embezzlement. That's ego. Receipts probably existed. She just thought you didn't deserve to see them. Big difference, and now, the budget's visible. The numbers are alive. Finally, things are moving. Services aren't gutted. They're expanding smarter. This is what I wanted all along. More with less. That's why budgets matter. That's why finalizing them is non-negotiable. Take general assistance. Remember Tiffany's pet project, the tax refunds? Yeah, it's back. But this time, with math that actually adds up. Tiffany, this is your cue. Gonzalez basically stood at the mic and said, you weren't a thief. You were just impossible to work with. And honestly, that fits. Your biggest downfall wasn't corruption. It was pride. You treated questions like insults. All ego, no service. And when you lock up the budget like Fort Knox, people assume the worst. Even if you weren't dirty, you created the smoke. Don't be surprised when folks thought there was fire. But hey, you can still spin it. Drop that fake book, push your fairy tale. We both know it's not a book. No chapters, no ISBN, just a Vistaprint pamphlet with a staple in the corner. Still, you can run with it. Play the martyr. Claim they punish you unfairly. Go on tour if you want. And you know what? On this Gonzalez situation, I'll even co-sign. At least for once, the math lines up. Meanwhile, Gonzalez, cut the mic. You're burying yourself in real time. The crowd side-eyeing you like, please stop, but you just keep yapping. You think you sound wise? Bro, you sound like a bootleg TED Talk. Back in the day, people pitched ideas like, let's do the tax refund project. My first question, where's the math? Who benefits? What's the plan? Back then, no answers. Now, we've got receipts. That's how you move forward. Not just board to board, but board to residents. Picture Napoleon sitting there, wide-eyed, realizing, wait, so Tiffany wasn't stealing? She just didn't pass out the notes. And now he's sweating bullets, thinking, if she got roasted that hard just for being secretive, what's going to happen to me when I mess up? Lesson time, Napoleon, transparency. Be so clear we can see your childhood trauma. Be a window pane, not a cinder block. Because at the end of the day, it all comes back to one thing, communication. Not just among the board, but with the people. Finally, after 63 long days, that's actually happening. Think of it like dating. You learn habits, you adjust, you grow. Unless you're out here thirsting over Napoleon, who, reminder, is married. This ain't Christian mingle. Relax. But hey, this is growth. Residents are finally included. People are in the loop. And then comes a comedy. Don't worry, I'm actually going to do my job now. Sir, did you just admit you've been cashing checks for speeches and selfies? And now you want applause because you open your laptop? Please. Chris, what you think you're saying ain't what the crowd is hearing. That sad, lonely clap at the end, that wasn't support. That was pity. Like, let me clap once before he cries. If that was your kid or someone who needed a ride home, fine. But real applause? Absolutely not. Still, credit where it's due. Shout out to the supervisor, the board, and especially the residents. Y'all keep pressing with the uncomfortable questions. No more, trust me, bro budgets. No more smoke and mirrors. Finally, people are in the room where it happens. That's the game. That's the tweet. But Chris, next time you feel the urge to grab a mic, resist. The last time you had a bright idea, Tiffany became supervisor, and we've been living in a circus ever since. This ain't redemption. It's opportunism in a cheap disguise. And seeing Marvon up there? Wrong vibe. Like she clicked the wrong Zoom link and just stayed. Back to Chris, though. All he really confirmed was what most already suspected. Tiffany wasn't stealing. She was just hoarding the budget like Grandma's secret recipe. Once she left, y'all opened the books. And guess what? The numbers were fine. No missing millions. Just Tiffany being Tiffany. Stubborn, paranoid, allergic to accountability. S.O. clear the record. If she wasn't a thief, say it loud. The streets didn't call her bossy. They called her a crook. If that's false, correct it. Don't let that lie breathe. Yes, I've caught her lying. She spins stories better than a carnival barker. But lying ain't stealing. Y'all blurred the line. Truth is, Tiffany could walk back in and own this moment. She took more hits than most and kept it moving. Built Ford tough. Unlike a certain someone, parading with a walker, crying wolf every 5 minutes. Ma'am, don't. You threw shade for years. But the second folks questioned your mystery illness, you scream harassment and dialed 911. Please, sit down. We won't name names. You like your anonymity. But Jedi knows. We all know. The math ain't matting. Anyway, behave or don't. I'm not. But remember, Mama still loves you. Always.